Great. So why don't we say the Pledge of Allegiance and begin our meeting? There's a flag behind us for the window. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, so hearing none. Why don't we start with public comments?
Is Daisy online?
Yeah, Daisy's on.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, so everybody online should be able to see the public policy comment. If you could just make sure you're familiar with that before making any sort of public comment, that would be greatly appreciated. Same for the in-person audience. First and last name, town of residence before speaking. If you are remote, use the hand raise feature at the bottom of your screen. We do currently have a very small audience of one person online and one person in here, so.
Okay. So then it would appear that we don't have any public comments at the moment.
Not at this time. Both are both the person here and they're online are staff members. So.
Okay. Very good. Well, we will have another public comment section at the end of the meeting, which should be in 3 to 4 hours.
Come on now.
Sorry, just kidding. Just kidding. Hopefully much sooner than that. Okay, so we don't have a student representative here tonight, and so we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Great. Well, this has been a busy summer on a lot of fronts. Certainly the most visible piece of that busyness revolves around facilities. So that is what I will focus on here, but if you have questions about just about anything, I'll certainly be able to do my best to answer your inquiries. So if we start here, we start with an exciting, we'll kind of go from messy to really clean in the end. That's how these slides kind of go. So this is currently, if you were to walk in, these are from today, that middle one's from Friday. So if you were to walk in the middle high school right now, and these are all over to the high school side of things, this is what you would see. So it is not ready for our learners to come back at this point in time. And actually that Friday hallway right in the middle is a lot cleaner than it was today. So there's a lot of work going on there right now. You can see that they had boxed in some of the ducting over in that double classroom there up on the second floor it's on your left, the middle. Everything is just kind of in flux right now as they continue to put more duct work in there, and also there's some electrical work going on. And then this room to the right actually is the counseling area. I went up there actually to show you the new flooring because it's gorgeous, and it's really nice. It's really a neat pattern, and they had put all of this down because they needed to continue to put more duct work in that area. So they are still not in that spot. Most of the high school, middle school administration and the administrative staff is over on the other side of the building near the SAU, where they've been doing a lot of the work there. Where I had a conversation with the principal of the high school, and he said to me today, he said, I always wondered why, like you're constantly saying that you're dropping calls or your texts aren't going through or anything from that side of the building, yet there's no problem for them on the other side of the building. Since they've been working here, they understand our frustrations and our difficulties now of just not being able to send a text.
Really?
So it's interesting from one side of the building to the other side, certainly from one side of the town to the other side of the town too.
What, is there any diagnosis of what's causing it?
Well, if I'm hooked to the internet, everything's fine. But but from a phone service standpoint,
Gotcha.
I stand about 15 feet off the front door outside, and I have good service. So I have a spot where I stand at.
On 1 foot.
Sometimes that
Above your
helps.
head.
Yep. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. So that's at Conant. This is also, and you won't be able to see this, but if you go online, you can see it a little bit better at another time. It's just something that Leland, the one who's overseeing the work, provided to us as the work that's going on, the timetable that it's going to take. And so this right here shows a lot of the work being done by the end of this week, beginning of next week. It's more likely, he believes, by the end of next week. And looking at things, I would say that would be a really good, they'd have to put a good effort in for that, but I think that they can do it. I'm sure that, things are messy now because they're just having to do so much, in the final moments of this. So he seems pretty confident about that. So some flooring. So this is at JGS and at CMHS. And so you can see to the left and then also to the right, that's all really the same project, where this is the entryway of the high school, middle school. And so they put some new walk-off carpeting there so that it would take a lot of the dirt off better. We did this at JGS as well, so that it would catch a lot of the dirt so it wouldn't be all over the floors, keep it a little safer. And then they're going to be putting the new flooring right there in that big area. And they're going to, if you see the middle one now where JGS, this is one of the hallways, they have that mascot even like on their floor, multiple places. Actually, anytime you enter a hallway or exit a hallway, that owl is there. And so there's going to be the Conant mascot right here on this floor. How big?
Where is that?
Where's what?
So the one on the right is where the secretaries are?
Yes.
Okay,
Where
where's-
everyone enters.
Where's the left?
You're coming in the doors. It's just front entrance there. There's the.
That's the
Oh,
lobby.
I see it.
Right here's your staircase going.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah, you can see the
The water bubble.
part of the water bubble. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you can see
okay.
the floor coloring over at JGS. And so also because of that, we took lockers out. There's going to be some work done there over the next couple of weeks to do a little bit of painting and also put some different cubbies in there for the kids, but make sure that the hallways, the width of the hallways is as wide as we possibly can. It's an older building and narrow hallways are tough sometimes. What's one thing that's really nice, apart from it looking kind of classic and just nice and elementary, it really it's the flooring, this particular flooring is a nice sound dampener, and that's important for the school. That same type of flooring, not the same color, is going to go in that front area. All right, this just got put in Friday, right?
Oh my goodness, is this the day?
So this is the daycare play area outside. The other, like if you were facing the high school entrance and you were to look to the left, that's where this is. This is in the same area that the Wellness Committee would like to put the community gardens, working with the Cornucopia project. There's another space for that. This does not yet have the bark mulch down. I don't have a picture of that, but there's a big mound off to the side, and then the fencing will go there as well after that's all happening. But these are the reason why the tape is around there, stay off, wanting the concrete to settle and so forth. So I think right now, if we were to go out there now and we were to step on it, we'd be okay. It's safe today, but I still didn't go on it today. But it's nice. It's rated for 2 to 4 year olds, basically. Hard to get a playground for a birth to 2, but some of these structures are good for that. And so this is nice, and there's a good amount of space out there. That's on the lower right-hand corner, if you're looking at it from this side, that's a dragonfly. So there's kind of an insect theme. Mm-hmm. If you see that gray rock climbing area, which is really not rock, it's plastic, but there's little tiny bugs all up it. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of real bugs too that will fly around. So we go back to this one. This is a long time coming. The CTE air cleaning system. So the career technical education, we have the building or the construction trades. And so this is in that area. All that piping, all that ductwork that you see is for to make sure that that environment is dust free, and it just cleans everything so that it's a healthy environment and a non-combustible environment.
We don't have to leave the doors open.
That's correct. And this next slide is something that was built in that center. And so this is just one, onto your left, one portion of the amphitheater that's going over to JGS in honor of Principal Susan Shaw Sarles. And if you were to go out there, you would see all the pieces lined up all the way down. There's a little more work to do, but there's multiple sections. They'll remain in sections, and they'll be able to come together. They'll go over to Jaffrey Grade School, where they used to have a pavilion, I think, or is it a pavilion or some sort of place outside that will go in that area. The ground is already set for that, and it will serve as an outdoor classroom. It will serve as where they can have performances, and it will be able to seat about 75 adults, which means that the grade bands, which they just are moving toward, so for a different philosophical model, all those kids in K1, that grade band, or 2, 3, or 4, 5 would be able to have grade band meetings or class meetings in this area at any point in time. And certainly could have some theater or musical performances out there if need be, or if they'd like to.
Very nice.
Most exciting thing. It's perhaps not the most exciting. I think it's exciting in that, one, these are replacing some rusty old units, but also they're replacing them with privacy partitions. So for instance, our maintenance staff has done a great job. It takes a long time to get this right because there's very little room for error, because there is no space with privacy partitions. There's no space between the metal. It has to be flush. It has to be perfect so that so that you would not be able to, for instance, knock on the door and be able to see through and look into a crack or anything like that. Not that people try to do that, but it happens. And so this makes it a lot more private for individuals. It's happening in both the boys' rooms and the girls' rooms. There's more work that needs to be done, but that's what it would look like.
And this is in which building?
This is Jaffrey Grade School right here.
Yeah. And all the buildings are doing this?
I don't think that Jaffrey Grade School had the partitions that needed the most work right off the bat. So I think that we'll look to do this as we go along. Yeah. They're actually kind of expensive. Partitions are. It's a little surprising how expensive all these items are. You wouldn't think so looking at it, but it is. But maintenance and custodial crew have been working very hard, particularly at that school, because of all the changes that have taken place, where over half the population is changing rooms, they're changing philosophies, they're changing schedules, they're changing a lot of different things. So there's a lot of work that's happening there.
Okay, will be a nice, attractive upgrade, I'm sure.
Yeah, and a practical one. A lot of practical upgrades, I would say, at JGS.
Good.
Even the HVAC upgrades, those are all practical. And RMS, this build, you can feel it. We're here right now at RMS, and this has really the best air system right now. Hopefully this is what, and we feel this the same way in the older part of the middle school, the old, that one wing, the 3 floors.
Yeah.
And if you can feel it and it feels like this in the 3 floors, you know it's working well because
Is the third floor over there
the
working
third,
good?
yeah, yeah,
Very comfortable.
very comfortable.
Heavenly, that's perfect. That
That's
was
important.
terrible. What about the science room, 7th grade science, where all the windows are?
Yeah, that's not part of it yet. So,
Okay.
just
The
that
third,
one,
okay.
yeah, one tower.
Yeah.
And JGS, they have to do some work on it still, but
Have the
coming
unit
along.
ventilators come out?
if
In the
not
high
all of
school?
them, the majority of them have. They still have some work to do, some
Brick work.
concrete work to do, and some painting to do as well in that area, but
There was also problems with staying warm in the winter, like with people wearing jackets and stuff. Is that fixed? Does HVAC fix that, or are we still not sure if it's going to be warm?
No, it's going to be warm.
it's supposed to
Okay,
address it.
okay.
We haven't been there yet, so we haven't seen it.
One of the things that the director of EEI, the contractor, told us is that, and Leland also, the heat in particular can be adjusted. So if we're not
Right.
getting enough heat, they have sensors that work pretty good, and you can make an adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
With the cool air, it's a little different because you can sense it, but there's no real adjustment.
Yeah, sure.
But heat should be.
Okay, that's good.
And we have a year to call them back. In fact, one of the challenges for us is to, stay on top of it and get the feedback that we need now, not wait 2 years.
Yep. And we highlighted that, I think, in the HVAC piece in the district news. And it is true. We went after that project at the right time. We stayed true to the costs that we said we were going to. There were opportunities that we would not have wanted that would have risen those costs. And we were able to make some adjustments with who was going to do the work and who we were going to hire, the kind of subcontractors. And we were able to keep it at the price that we were supposed to have it. And so we're very pleased with that. Certainly, we need to keep on making sure that the quality is what we promised the community we would deliver. But we did deliver it, I think, at probably a very reasonable cost for what we are getting.
Right.
And certainly having about half of our HVAC costs paid through federal funds is helpful too.
That helped a lot. Yep. The ESSER funds.
And that's my report, but certainly if you have other questions about anything to do with facilities, we also have Sandy here as well, who could answer some questions, but also anything around curriculum instruction, anything about hiring, anything about where we're at with any of our programs that we're putting forward. I'd be happy to talk about them.
I was just curious for the daycare center that you highlighted, how many I don't know what we call them, students or how many children do you expect to have in that this year?
Sure. I don't know the answer entirely yet. I was hoping to have that information. We did develop a registration form, and that has gone out. The registration form, just like anything else, requires them to give us quite a bit of paperwork. So perhaps it takes a little more time than what I had anticipated for people to fill out. I did get some emails right back saying, we'll do it. We're not in the state right now. We'll get that paperwork, birth certificates, all that type of stuff. We're still in the process of developing I guess you would say a document that governs that daycare and what all the rules and so forth are. The timeframes of the daycare will be, right now, we've advertised it as 7 to 4:30, but we're going to try to make it 6:30 to 4:30. That seems to be the norm. And 4:30 was a very specific time. 4 and 4:30 were very specific timeframes that the staff indicated they needed it to be. So 6:30 was not necessary for all, but certainly would be helpful for a few. And so we put the pricing out there. They have all that information. And if we go by the reports that we had during the springtime with a Google form saying, what's your interest? We probably will be around anywhere between 12 and 16 individuals. We have purchased about 6 cribs with wheels, and we have some maybe changing stations that need to be put up. I was just walking that area actually today with Trey, because right now JGS from a facility standpoint is kind of the priority. That daycare is a second priority, right after that. And CMHS would be a top priority as well, except that you can't clean with all that work going on. So that's going to have to be a blitz. It's every operation's going to have to hit, at that time toward the end. So we think we'll have quite a few. There are individuals who have, there's one individual anyway that I'm aware of that hired, and they'll be using it. We know that there are at least a couple individuals who this helped retain them here, and that was good. And then also another individual who I think is who we hired part-time, but I think is going to work closer to full-time now because of it, which is important. And that was because of daycare problems that happened. We got a couple emails about the daycare fell through. So, and that's happening everywhere. That also speaks to the grant that I put in that email. We got 160. I haven't really talked about it too much. We got $162,500 grant for community schools planning. We're a little behind what our timeline was that we said in the grant, so I have to give them a new timeline, but we're in the process of hiring a coordinator for that, which the goal of the coordinator is really to build as many formal partnerships as possible within the community, and to see how we can help all of our children, regardless of whether they come to our schools or not, or is there a way that we can cost, neutral, expand our capacities throughout the region to help more families with childcare in an affordable way, and also high quality at the same time, giving their kids what they need. We know, and Jaffrey and Ringe are not exclusive in a different direction from this. We know that families all over the place are in high need of quality childcare, not just because parents have to work. That's certainly a significant piece of it, but also because life is stressful, and they want their children to be in safe places. They want them to be exposed to other children. They understand that's important. Not everyone's excited about letting their kids run around outside. So if they can have them in a place where they're in play groups and so forth, that means a lot. But definitely we do know that economically speaking, it's important for families as well. Perhaps from a practical standpoint, the most important thing for the community.
Yeah.
So we'll get that
Good question.
grant work underway soon.
All right. Are there any other questions for Ruben? Okay, well then, hearing none, Ruben, thank you for that report. It's great to get the update. And we know that there, as you mentioned at the beginning of your report, that there are a lot of other things going on. It's been a busy summer, and so we're going to hear a lot more about some of those things as we get into later into August. And I asked that we put a item on here about the CTE proposal, or as I like to call it, the ATC proposal. And I only mention that because we talked about the appropriate technology centers for many years around here. It's kind of a familiar topic. And the way Val Zanchuk, who's been working with the state CTE upgrade program, the way he explained it, and he's also on our committee, but our visioning committee for the Route 202 property. He said the ATCs are the centers, the CTE or career technical education is the program. And so there. And so what we're looking at is expanding our ATC and in the process, our whole career and technical education program. And the reason I wanted to mention, I know we all, I'm sure, have seen this document that was produced by largely by Juno and Ruben. And it's a great document. It's got a lot of information. Like previous ones, some people have seen it and really looked at it closely. Other people, just went through their mail because they get so much other mail and people don't have time. But I had a chance to talk to a number of Rotarians last week. We had a get together at the home of the Franklin Pierce president, Kim Mooney.
Mhm.
And the Rotarians were asking about it. They were, had seen this and they were interested, but they did want to know who's going to pay for this. And they were glad to hear that there was this renovation program out there that potentially could pay for 75% of it in grant money. And that eased their mind a lot, but they still have other questions. And part of what this starts to do, and what I know there are plans to continue doing, is to educate the community and ourselves on why career and technical education are important and what benefits they're going to bring, or we envision. One of the things that we've talked about a lot since then, and there was a meeting of the visioning committee last week, I think it was, right, a week ago, is that in addition to cosmetology and culinary arts, which have been identified as real needs, that there are other things that we're already doing, but that we feel the need to do more of. And in particular, the construction trades. We have a small electrical and plumbing component at this point, but we'd like to upgrade that and make it into a program that can really prepare people at a more advanced level. There's also welding and equipment operation that would like to have some component of, but we can't do that in the space that we have. And the reason I'm mentioning them is because we think that getting that information out to the community will be an important part of gaining the interest and hopefully the backing of the community for whatever is going to happen. One thing that the group has talked about, and this is actually, I believe, the architects who proposed this, is that there will be another document, another school district newsletter, similar in format, that will be produced in September? Or is it late August? Or
The one we plan to produce in September has more to do with the educational innovations that are going on within our schools. And I'll let Juno talk to this a little bit, but I know that we were also talking about putting out a flyer, not a flyer, like a postcard invitation for in-person communication regarding this for the middle to end of September.
Yeah, so we've determined or deemed that this newsletter format can be very useful in accessing different types of people. Just having that physical mailer. We understand that there's a certain cost that we're incurring. We're going to have that conversation during budget season about having more money built in to continue the line of doing these more consistently. But in terms of talking about refining this as a completed document, we've talked about doing them at least 4 times a year. Obviously, 2 of those are going to be taken up by budget season, one being kind of the budget, like we did with the first one, kind of explaining, certain things going on relative to the budget, why supporting the budget's important, some of these other items. We took our voters guide, turned it into that format as well. Obviously, we released the 3rd one, which was very CTE focused, also with some facilities and other items. As Ruben said, we have a 4th one planned for somewhere around the start of the school year. That one's going to be very focused on a lot of academic things that are going on so that we can really hit some of those pieces. In the meeting that I had attended for the steering committee relative to 202, we had talked about doing a smaller mailer, just a postcard, when we have some of these more informational sessions that are going to be coming up, or Q&As, or whatever they end up, ultimately becoming. That ultimately would be a smaller thing, smaller cost, because it's more just, hey, come here, attend these meetings, Give a couple spots to look at on the website as we're finding more information, more discussions are being had. We're going to build out a section on the website that speaks to all these different components with, CTE, ATC, some of the facility stuff relative to that, some of the planning. John found a lot of documents from 2004 that speak to some of the older high school initiative on 202, just that we can have those resources in one spot for everybody. So the next one wasn't necessarily focused on, we're not going to necessarily, at least in terms of how we're planning, focusing on continual CTE large newsletters, at least in the immediate future, just because those are, a couple $1,000s between printing and postage costs. But there are certainly other ways that we're hoping to tap into being able to let people know about some of these things. Still more mailers, just on that smaller scale.
Okay, so the reason I asked, the Barker engineers, they had a communications person who was, I believe, coming out here in the end of this month.
Yeah, I have an email from that person right here. Yep.
Okay, good. And I had thought that she had talked about doing more of a communication on the CTE program. But however it's done, I think it's important for this group to be aware of, the issues and really ready to talk to people in the community who have questions. And I suspect that they'll have legitimate questions. People have doubts about how much they're going to be charged, which, is natural, and what's the benefit. And I think it's important for all of us to be as prepared as possible to engage. And even if we don't have all of the answers when the questions are posed, or, we have to have a commitment to try and get those answers.
Yeah, I guess on that I'm on that committee as well. I've been attending the meetings, and I think that the thing that I'd like to have some more clarity on, I think we've been having difficulty getting that, is for a number of reasons, not for lack of effort, I don't think, but clarity around the grant deadlines and timing. I think when we're going into this a few months ago, kind of the assumptions were, or at least I had read it somewhere, it was probably, in this meeting, that, by the January timeline was a submittal, and then things would be going, to some sort of vote, voting in March. I think if the expectation is that we have a full plan, for this, I don't think, and especially I think if we're considering a 202, I don't think that's realistic to have that. So I think we need to kind of be clear. If we're talking about the 75% funding and it's really not a possibility, then to me, we should understand that and almost shift focus to what we can get done in that period, which would be, most likely something on the current campus. So just not to, I'd hate to lose out on, this, once in a generation type opportunity funding because we didn't understand the timing and we're focusing, on something bigger. I'd rather get a little bit of it than nothing. Right. I guess is my point. And I know we've tried to get some clarity around that, but I think that that's, important point, especially if we're going to have some credibility when we're discussing this.
Yeah, I plan on connecting, at least within the next 2 weeks anyway, with the CTE director. We've already contacted the state, talked to a couple different individuals. It seems as though this January one's more of a preliminary, but we did not get black and white information.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a call or Zoom with the commissioner later on this month on the 24th, I think, in the morning, to discuss this topic, as well as the possibility of whether it be utilizing the same type of building or something else over there, looking at charter school funds and seeing if a charter school can be run by a school district, which of course it can, and it's not done very often, but a lot of charter schools are not successful. There's a lot of good research to show that that is the case, but there are some models out there that are highly successful, and they tend to have better structural systems behind them that like a school system would have. And so in the past several years, there's been a lot of money that has gone to charter schools, building costs, things of that nature. So maybe this is something also that we're, interested in looking at as an experiential type of learning environment over there, and something that could really benefit our learners who might want something a little bit different in the area. But still a progressive education that is going to prepare them for the future, as opposed to something that is preparing them for a world that no longer exists, like some charter schools that are in the area.
Wow, exciting stuff.
So, John, I have a thought. I'm listening to all of this. I read these so far, the newsletters and stuff. And I'm inclined, the budget issues, and I'm inclined to treat this as adult education. Because what we're doing is we're educating our community on lots of things, the opportunities of what's going on, but also besides educating them about what we're doing internally, it should open opportunities and doors for what it is that we can do externally, like Ruben was talking about. The community needs childcare. There are other things the community needs, and perhaps if we look at it from the perspective of adult or community education as opposed to marketing, it might give us more impetus to do more and be able to fund more. So just a thought.
Well, Charlie, I think it's a great thought, because you're right. We're not trying to sell something to people that they don't need or convince them that they do need it. What we are trying to do is make sure people understand the opportunities.
Right.
And some of the things that have been discussed so far, the idea of a charter school, I hadn't even thought or heard about that, but wow. But just the notion that this is going to be a facility that will be open to private school children, homeschool children, and hopefully at some point, not maybe right now as a part of the CTE program, but hopefully it'll be a community facility, something that people can use during the summer and on the weekends, and where, maybe some health and wellness courses will be taught, but also where community education will happen. It's true in many parts of the state that there are courses that are done. It could be courses in technology, it could be courses in health interventions. Are we ready to do that now? Probably not, but if we have a plan and a conversation about it. And we're not the only, it would be interesting for people to know what schools are delivering in some of the other communities in the state.
Yeah, that is an interesting, I think it would give people some perspective, and just recalling a comment that Val made at our last meeting that I really agreed with. And to go along with what you're saying, Charlie, it is an education. It's about, we kind of sometimes jump ahead and because we have to, right? This is like a bid process. We need to start talking about the building and the infrastructure and the costs and all that stuff. But the first step, which really we've already established, is to establish that need for CTE, right? So that's what, before we start talking to the public about, dollars and, bulldozers and things like that,
Right.
That's moving too fast, right? We need to first what is CTE and why is it important? Why are we doing this? We're not doing it just because we want to build a building, right? Nobody just wants to build a building.
And how
It's
do
to
you-
provide this educational service to our children, and here is why we think it's important. We're not doing it because this is just something came. There's data behind this, and we've all seen that, but the public needs to see that as well.
Exactly. We should be saying, why is this important to you? How are you going to benefit?
Yeah.
What's in it for you?
Yeah.
Because, I'm kind of, I like to get the best for my money that I can. And so if I don't have a need for it, I don't buy it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the focus, right? We're
Yeah.
establishing kind of the educational need, but also when we have those future communications, how it could benefit the community as a whole. We've kind of paused a little bit on that future visioning. but do know it's there, right? We do know that there's a lot of potential there.
Well, and with all these conversations, I realize we're talking about, earlier we talked about the daycare here and for the staff members' children. Of course, that serves, there's multiple reasons for that. Some of it has to do with retention, some of it has to do with just the fact that we need to take care of our employees. There's other factors as well. But as we look toward the grant on seeing what we can do to expand services or supports or education or focus groups or what have you, be as large or small as possible throughout the community to help families with children birth to 8, like that's an economic issue as well. And so just like that is an economic issue for the sustainability and improvement of these communities, so is what we're talking about with CTE. It's about future, I mean, perhaps not too distant future, economic well-being of the communities.
Great. Well, good discussion.
Especially as we consider more AI advances, how are we going to educate our children differently?
It is a rapidly changing. We always say world, but it's, information system, things are changing quickly, and yeah, our communities all have an interest in keeping up. Well, okay, so we have a consent agenda. And it's got a lot of items on it. Some
I'm super excited about the 6th grade.
Okay,
No,
so
we did that my first year teaching. It was the best thing in the world.
this is contingent upon grant funds. So we're trying, we've been working on this for a little bit. We do have Title IV grant funds. The money it's an entitlement grant, so it's ours. But the activity has to be, one, it has to be written in a certain way. We have to assess it in a certain way. And because of our free and reduced lunch rate within our schools or our district, we get a little bit more than some schools do. And that puts restraints on how we write our grants. We have to hit 3 different areas and hit different percentages and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I met with the individual in charge of Title IV grants last week. He gave me some different ideas of how I could shape the grant itself, how I could write it differently. It wasn't too different. We'll find out. I've submitted it. I submitted it last week, again, Thursday. I didn't hear back Friday. I didn't hear back today. I was hoping to hear back today. And if we can get something called a substantial approval or approval, either way, they're both similar. One has to do with just making sure our budget codes are correct. One has to do with the type of projects we have. What we put into the grant was the ecology school for the purpose of improving at a very early time in the year, improving our transition by trying to create an experience that improves or encourages friendships and camaraderie early on with when 2 towns come together. The teachers have noted that it takes a bit of time for the 6th grade to gel, and maybe sometimes the entire year. And by the time you're like, things are really well oiled and running well, you're like, oh, what if this happened a lot sooner? Where could these kids be? And so that's one of the goals. And the ecology school here does a lot of that team building, social emotional type of learning, not necessarily a social emotional curriculum, but making sure that individuals are working collaboratively in whatever they're doing and communicating properly and so forth. There is no technology allowed during this time frame, other than the types of technology that would use at the site, but like computers and phones and things like that, not permitted. And then, of course, there's an academic piece as well. We know that in grade 8, our science results could stand to be a little bit better, or a lot more, a lot better. And so that starts earlier, and we believe that making certain that our learners have the proper skills early on for observation and inquiry and just general science skills, this location seeks to work on that. So those are the two really reasons for the purpose of trying to go for this overnight experience, paid for entirely through this grant, apart from the transportation. And then the other part of the grant that had to be put in, we have to put in a third section, which is effective use of technology, because a committee has been working on cyberbullying and harassment and things like that, and how we can help support that. The gentleman who I met with gave me a suggested activity to put into the Title IV grant that was along those lines, having some modules for our middle schoolers to go through, that has been vetted and developed by a reputable organization, I think out of Utah. So and all of this will be done during the month of September, during the early time of the year. So that piece is preventative in nature. This is more to lay the foundations. Trip is to lay the foundation for better learning and better social engagement throughout the course of the year.
When do you think you'll know about the status of it? I guess I think it's great. My concern is that it's like a month away. We're talking about 6th graders, right? We're talking about like the first or second week of school.
Yeah.
I happen
Right
to
after
have
Labor
happen to
Day.
have a 6th grader, but if like they come home the first week of school and it's like, I'm going on an overnight trip next week.
Yeah.
You know, for a 12-year-old, that's kind of a big deal. Right?
It is a
So I
big
think,
deal.
like,
And
an
so
early communication, they'll be psyched. The 12-year-olds will be psyched about it.
Mhm.
The
The parents may have a bit of hesitation, so that'd be my only kind of
Yeah.
guidance there, is like the earliest practical notice, the better, if
Yeah.
you want to get people to go, right?
Yes, I think that, I mean, clearly we're hoping we're going to hear back today.
Yeah.
And even if we have to do another adjustment, knowing that it's just another little tweak here and there, we can start to communicate that
Yeah.
as that once we feel like we really are certain that can happen. Our deadline is this Friday.
Oh, yeah, that
We
makes,
need to get the communication out by this Friday. I believe this Wednesday is the 6th grade
yeah. the
barbecue,
yep,
and so that's really where we're trying to get it for.
That'd be
But
great.
at least we can mention, be looking for this is what we're doing. But we also know that we have to have board approval. We've bargained with the organization. We got the price. It's a good price. Going earlier helps them. They don't, this is not a popular time frame for
First week of school,
them to
yeah.
have, yeah. So that works well, but it also solves it's better for
Well,
us.
fits nicely
It
into
fits
what you're
nicely
trying
into
to
what we're
accomplish.
trying to accomplish, exactly. And so we have a contract ready to roll and sign and send off, and I've been in communication on a regular basis, updating the person, Alex, over at the site. And they'll also not just stay at the ecology school, they'll take a trip out to the ocean as well.
Okay, good. Yeah, good. Good. Part of the whole list of exciting things that are going on, so we'll keep our fingers crossed for the grant money. Any other questions or comments relating to the consent agenda?
Is the tea party one for 7th grade? 8th grade? I couldn't tell. It didn't say what grade. Think, because, and it's a new teacher, so I'm not sure if it was Miss Knorr, but 7th grade? Or 8th grade?
Where? I'm trying to think. I think it's 7th grade, because she was 8th grade last year.
Oh, she came back.
And
Okay,
so,
okay.
yeah.
cool thing.
Number of learners,
Cool.
85. So it is a classroom. I mean, class, a grade level if it's 85.
Yeah. It just doesn't say anywhere where,
Yeah.
when I looked it over, I was
Yep.
like,
Mhm.
I don't know who this is.
I believe it's 7th grade.
Okay, that's a great trip. That's cool too. I love seeing field trips come through. So good for all the kids
Right.
and the teachers, the bond with the kids too.
That is what the literature says. That especially on those overnight ones, that it's not just the camaraderie with other learners, it's with the adults as well.
Nice.
Just to confirm, the stipend list that's attached to the agenda shows that Don Canoyer is listed as the 7th grade team leader. So
Thank you.
Mhm.
So great. Cool.
Great. I noticed the consent agenda includes meeting minutes for June 6, 1917, or June 6th and 19th, July 17th, and July 27th. So we don't have anybody who needs to remove those, do we?
I think I was not on the 27th. July 27th, I was away on vacation.
Okay.
I was on the,
Yes, Daisy.
I was not there for the 27th.
Okay, so we'll remove the minutes for the 27th from the consent agenda. And I guess the others we can leave in.
Does that? Okay. So 2 will abstain.
I know that. Do I make a motion to remove the minutes for July 27th?
Do we need a motion? I think we can just remove them, can't we?
We can just remove them.
Okay, forget
I think we're good. So then we'll just need someone to move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you, Charlie. And do we have a second?
I can second that.
Okay. Thank you, Ken.
Mhm.
Very good. And if there's no further discussion, then all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
I,
Thanks, Daisy.
I have a motion to accept the minutes of
July 27th.
July 27th.
Thank you, Charlie.
Second?
Thank you, Chris. All those in favor of accepting the minutes for July 27th, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Hi.
I,
Okay, so that passes 3-0-2. All right, very good. And now we're on to action items. Purchasing guidelines.
Yes, the finance committee met and reviewed changes to the purchasing guidelines. One of them has to do with the certificate of completion, which is page 9 of your document, highlighted in yellow. And it was now is requiring a certificate of completion before you pay people for attendance and things like that. The other change has to do with the pilferable items. This is a federal requirement regarding pilferable items. It's on page 29 of your purchasing agreements. And like I said, the finance committee has approved this, and we would like this approved by the board tonight. Is this Carrie online?
She was at one point, I'll see if she's still in. Oh, yeah, she is.
Do you have anything to add, Carrie?
I just gotta give her permission.
I know, I don't have anything to add. Thank you, Charlie.
Okay.
So I make a motion, we accept changes to the purchasing guidelines
Okay,
as
thank you.
presented.
Do we have a second? Second. Okay, Chris, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? regarding the purchasing guidelines for the motion? So hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Oppose? Okay, and that passes 5-0-0. Great. Bid award for the laptops. I think that was fairly straightforward. The price was the lowest price. The specifications exceeded the required or what was requested. Does anybody have any questions about that or any? Okay.
This
So-
is in reference to our budget conversation that we had in last fall. It does fit into a little bit better actually than what we budgeted for. We talked about the 4-year lease. Reason for the 4-year lease was one, to not just purchase them and have a big boom on the tax rate immediately, but to have something consistent throughout the 4 years. So you'll see that this cost right here, 57,062, or 57,000 roughly, is going to be the number that will be used for the next year's budget and the next year's budget and the next year's budget. So that's a little bit more of what this is talking about at the same time, for a total of almost $200,000. Certainly for $200,000 at the end with the $1 buyouts and so forth, you're keeping the computers. Of course, there'll be time for a new cycle after that as well. And the motion, if you're going to make a motion, would be to award it to whichever group you want, but certainly the requested is CDW, and to provide the superintendent the authority to enter into this lease agreement.
So that means next year we're gonna have another 4-year lease agreement. Year after that, at 4 years, so it's gonna be rotating. Or is this for all the laptops?
This is for all.
It's for all of them?
This is for all teachers.
It'll be paid over 4 years, so the 57,000 will be recurring.
They'll get them this year. They'll have them for 4 years at the
Okay, so they gotta last for 4 years,
yes,
and then we recycle.
that's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
You wanna make this motion, Chris?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Make a motion to, actually, let me pull it up on my screen here first. Yeah, we can go with that. I'll make a motion to award contract for the purchase of the 200 Lenovo T-Series laptops
It'll be
to
Be a lease.
lease, enter into a lease agreement with CDW and to authorize the superintendents to enter into that agreement.
Yes. I think that does it.
Well, the only thing I would add is not to exceed.
Yeah, at the
At the price
published
of, and
cost
maybe-
here of $195,000 with 4 annual lease payments of $57,062.07.
Not to
Good.
exceed 4 years, right?
Right, 4 years and includes the interest cost. Well, not to exceed 4 years.
Make it simple. I would just say not to exceed $200,000 and leave. it
Oh,
there.
that, yeah.
Not to exceed $200,000. Enter into a 4-year lease.
That's-
That's good. We got it down.
Yeah, you did well. Thank you, Chris. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Excuse me, I will not second.
Kim will second.
I will second.
Very good. Thank you, Kim and Charlie. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay,
She squeaked.
thank you, Daisy. And so that passes 5-0-0. Okay, policy review.
The finance committee reviewed policies DFA, DF3, DAF3, and DAF4. Okay, the changes, DFA needs to be an annual approval. DAF3 and DAF4 are changes that we made based on requirements of the federal government for federal grants. Okay, we would like, this is the first reading, we would like to waive the second reading and adopt the changes to these policies tonight. Okay, and Carrie's still online? Do you have anything to add, Carrie?
The only thing I would add is these came about as a result of the state federal audit review that we had back in the spring. So these are changes that we're required to make.
Okay, thank you, Gary.
So I would make a motion that we waive second reading on these three policies and adopt them as they're written.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. And we don't, it looks like we don't have a second yet. So is there?
I can second.
All right. And thank you, Kim. And are there any questions or comments about these policies and adopting them tonight? No?
Yeah, I don't have any, I mean, in looking through them, it looks to be. I didn't see any changes to the first one. I think it just requires a reapproval, right?
Yeah.
And then the rest of them seem to be, if they're in line with what the audit requirement is, then. I'd certainly be ready to approve.
Lisa's the policy queen, so it's hard without her, but
I'm sorry. What?
I said Lisa's like the policy queen. She seems to really get it. But
She really follows it.
looks good.
Extension, that's right. That's right. And okay, so,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
well, Charlie already made.
Yeah.
Did?
So nobody
And I
second me.
Second,
Kim second.
Kim second.
Yeah, well.
Whatever
And then
works.
I asked if there were any questions, that's all.
So that was, yeah, that was my only comment.
Okay,
I'm ready to approve.
so then all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, and thank you, Daisy and everybody else. Okay, so that takes care of our policy review for tonight. Food service program. First reading.
The food service was part of DAF-4. That was
Okay.
additional provisions relevant to the food service program.
Okay,
Although it's worth saying, we're excited to have a new food service program with the Abbey Group. And they should be coming on board shortly, actually physically into our locations, so. That should happen within the next week or two.
well, even though I raised that without needing to, I'm glad I did because that's good to know that the new companies coming in, we're looking forward to that. Okay. Good, and board members will be getting free lunches.
I hear, yeah,
No, it's not true. Okay.
It's not true.
Never mind. But we can go down there and pay for lunch and see if it's any good. We're allowed to do that. We have
Sounds good.
to give them some prior
We'll be the
notice.
critics.
Okay, board committee updates. I'd just like to start out with finance and say that Ruben gave us a pretty good update. We haven't had a meeting since the last board meeting. We haven't had a facilities meeting. However, our facilities director is here, and if there's anything you would like to add, Sandra, please, feel free.
I don't, I think that Trey and I will work on picking our next meeting date. We'll get back to you guys.
Okay, great. Okay, other committees that have met since our last meeting.
Finance meets next week.
Education meets the 17th.
Okay, excellent. And
policy met earlier last week, at the end of last week, so I think it was Thursday. And the discussion was around JICK, looking at some other schools' versions of that. That's the bullying policy.
Good.
And taking into consideration some work that had been done through a committee.
And that is that will that conversation will continue at the next policy meeting.
Yep. Okay. For wellness, I'd just like to mention that we received notification last week that a small grant proposal that we put in with the assistance of the Cornucopia project was approved. So $3,000 to create a school garden here and in the district over at the middle high school has been approved. In addition, Cornucopia is also going to kick in a couple of $100 of their own money, which I guess they wanted to add to the grant. And so there is a meeting coming up later this week to discuss the particulars of that.
Christine must be so excited.
Hmm?
Christine must be so excited.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Any other, if there are no other committee reports or updates, then we're ready for public comments, our second session of public comments.
All right, we have more people here now than when we started. So I will go back over the rules real quick. If you're in person, I can give you a microphone and you can make a comment that way. If you are remote, there's a hand raise feature at the bottom of whatever screen you're on. Looks like a little hand. You press that and I could acknowledge you. In either case, first name, last name, town of residence, and just make sure that you're adhering to the policy. Which should be on the screen for both types of viewers. All right, I'm not seeing anything.
Okay. Well, then if there are no public comments at this point, then we will move on to board matters and or future items. If anybody has anything to add there, this is the time for that. Yes.
Question was raised at the before the beginning of the meeting about the meeting location moving forward. We had talked about meeting here in Ringe while the HVAC work was going on at the middle high school because the room that we typically meet in was impacted. I don't know when we will make that switch over. It'll depend on when the work is completed. Again, this does seem to be a perfectly usable room if we do need it as a backup or if we ever need to come over here for a meeting. If the board wants to discuss anything at any point in the future about potentially splitting, again, my biggest concern is just the lugging of equipment. We do have some equipment duplication for each school, but there would still be some level of kind of carrying back and forth. But I just wanted to let everybody know that until you hear otherwise, we're still going to continue to meet here. And it should be 1 or 2 more meetings, I would think. Do we know when that room might be done? Okay. And for
Okay, well,
anybody
thank
who's
you,
not
Jim.
here, we're meeting in RMS in the library classroom. Is that what this is?
I think so.
And then I just have one other board matter to bring up. I noticed on the calendar that we are scheduled for, I believe it's the 28th of August, but then there's the 4th of September is still on the calendar. And I just want to verify, I think the intention is that we'll meet on the 28th, but not on the 4th. Is that right?
What calendar are you referring to, John?
The calendar for the school board meetings on the SAU website.
We're also meeting the 21st, right?
Yes.
21, 28.
So the 21st
No,
would
4.
be the second meeting. of
What
August.
calendar specifically, though? Are you talking about the live calendar, the static calendar?
Static calendar. So Kim, the idea was to meet on the 28th instead of our first.
The 4th.
Yeah.
Labor Day.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it would go back. To the,
You talking about this one? Or a different one?
Oh, no, if you, on the SAU website, board calendar, or well, under the board heading, there's agendas, minutes.
Well, that one says it too. 7/17. Just kidding, I can't read it at all. Oh, yeah.
So it's not on that one. We moved
21,
it up.
28. There it is. And then
28,
no
the
18.
18th.
I mean, no 4.
Okay, so this is what always happens, right? So if you go to the, and where I always check my agendas, in
This
fact,
one?
is where I download the agendas.
This one?
Yeah, that looks right, yeah.
I don't see the September 4th on either of those.
Well, it was there this afternoon, so, and if it's not there now, that's perfect. But I did go on this afternoon because I wanted to download the agenda and print it out, and I noticed that it was still there, so. And the only matter is just to, make sure that we're in agreement, we're not meeting on the 4th.
Not meeting on the 4th. Looks good to me.
Don't feel bad, John. I do it all the time.
No, what can I tell you?
And when you mess up, David Dustin is really a smooth way of telling you messed up.
Well, I'm not surprised, but I didn't know that. It could be that you need to have a Chromebook to be able to find these.
It could be I need to delete the ones that are scheduled and rescheduled and.
I do that all the time too.
I think the only other board matter that I can think of is that the JREA has provided notice that they want to negotiate in the fall, and so the board has been asked for some dates and so forth, and I have some dates that we can, throw out and so forth, but we would need to know who would want to be on that negotiating committee. So Charlie.
Well, I'm not interested in pushing anybody else off who's interested. However, I would have an interest, well, seriously, if there are people who have done this and who want to do it, but not having been able to do it in the past because my wife was a teacher, now retired 2 years, I'd be interested if there is a need.
You're welcome to it. The more days I get with my kids, the better.
Did you do it last time?
I did not the JREA one, but I didn't know
The
if I-
support staff one?
is that what I did?
Yeah.
Ruben, when we did with, I don't know, I was there or something. Down in the thing
SSA?
talking about,
Probably JRSSA.
that's the one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So maybe I'll send an email out just to kind of get
Yeah,
confirmation of who, get some dates, and then we'll,
get some input and, Yeah.
I'm hearing a couple that I do not need to send stuff to, so it's really just asking Lisa at this point whether she wants, Lisa and Christine, whether they want to be part of this.
Mike, do anything?
Mike has given me a bunch of dates that he's available.
all right. And so Ruben, thank you for that board update. That was important. And I think we just need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Kim.
Welcome.
Looks like there's no second, however.
Second.
All right, Daisy,
Ew.
Daisy, thank you. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye.